There are patients them in their words say, where they don't abandon completely. Even their family members are not coming. Even their family members are not coming. At a particular point, some of them will beg Allah, say, Ya Allah, take this man in life now. We don't tire for come. We don't tire for come. Subhanallah. The Prophet alayhi salatu salam say, never ever wish for die. Never ever pray for someone even for die. No matter in state way they. No matter in state way they. In terms of difficulty. Never ever pray directly, say, Ya Allah, take this man in life or take this woman in life. Rather, the Prophet alayhi salatu salam say, if it has reached on the breaking point, the dua for make for say, Ya Allah, grant me life if a life good for me. Ya Allah, take me away if going away is good for me. So even at that point, you still give option by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some of us have this kind of dua. When your papa sick or your mama sick, you don't spend a lot. You go say, Ya Allah, I don't spend now. Allah, take this pale go so that I go rest. Why you want to take the part? Now because you don't have for spend. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive our mistakes them. My beloved brothers and sisters, contextualizing the issue of test based on the surrounding where we find ourselves in our hospital. Bi-iznillahi ta'ala, we need to point out one of the greatest tests when it comes to the test of life. One of the greatest tests when it comes to the test where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala can test we, now the test of reduction of our life via sickness. Subhanallah, this is now one of the greatest tests of life. The moment Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take away your health, every other thing not relevant to you anymore. You know why you're looking for job? It's because you are healthy by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why the thing for fix a marriage date? Now because you're healthy by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Why you get the quest and the zest for travel out of the country and for go try? Now because you get well body by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When Allah take away the well body, every other thing not relevant to you again at all. That is the greatest test of life, subhanallah. For those of us who are here, or those of us who don't work out through the words them here, when you go into the words them, you go thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Subhanallah is a big test. A possible worker, subhanallah, where they will do things on your own. Today, go to these words, you go see them, they don't, subhanallah, they cannot do anything. That is the reality of life. This is part of the test of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you an example in the Quran. When it comes to the test of health, Almighty Allah make mention of one of his companions, where Allah choose, meaning a prophet of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose for come closer to them. Almighty Allah, He says in the Quran, يَخْتَسُ بِرَحْمَتِهِ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah is give rahmah to who that He wants. Allah is choose who that He wants for be a companion when it comes to act of worship by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Almighty Allah say, وَأَنَّ اخْتَرْتُكَ فَاسْتَمِي لِمَا يُوهَا. Allah tell Musa alayhi salam, He said, I don't choose you, meaning I don't select you by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah be the choose slaves them in the past. Just like today again, Allah they choose those whom He want for choose by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one for among the prophets them, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be chose for test with the highest level of sickness. Bi-iznillahi ta'ala, where Allah record in the Quran, na Prophet Ayyub alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala tested Ayyub alayhi salatu salam, and Allah record this in the Quran. Whatever to the Quran say, it is 100% true. Why is that? Now because the Quran, لا يأتيه الباطل من بين يديه ولا من خلفه. The Quran not ever tell lies in the past, nor in the present, and nor in the future, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Allah tell we the story of this great prophet of his, when Ayyub alayhi salatu wassalam. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be blessed this slave with the blessings them where any one of we can pray for. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala initially grant him good health by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah grant him family. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant him wealth. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make all him produce them. Then they grow by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What means that this man was healthy, he was wealthy, he was okay in terms of dunya. Bi-iznillahi ta'ala. And then Allah chose for test them. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose for test them, and he begin take the goodness we give one after the other by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah took away all implantations them we get. Allah took all of them away. Bi-iznillahi ta'ala, meaning Allah destroyed them. Each time when Allah destroyed this man implantations them, they say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. This plantation, it belongs to Allah. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala take them, he get right for take them. Because na in give me. By in permission and by in mercy. And thereafter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala begin taking picking them one after the other. All in plenty picking them, Allah take them all. Subhanallah. Each one will die, they say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. He always be the surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thereafter, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala test them when it comes to the test of health. Allah took away in health. Bi-iznillahi ta'ala. This man become extremely sick. A man who was healthy once upon a time become extremely sick. So much that he never move at all. So much that all in body, iroti, bi-iznillahi ta'ala. And the internal organ, they also get a problem as well. So this man was completely and extremely sick by the permission of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. With all of this condition, he realized that the test of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he not be ever turned away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah praised this slave so much. He said, Inna wajadnahu sabiran, ni'mal abdi innahu awwab. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, we meet this slave when Ayyub, alayhi salatu salam, we meet him sabiran. He was extremely patient. Subhanallah. When it comes to patient, he gets excellence. When it comes to the grade of patient, bi-iznillahi ta'ala, Allah say, ni'mal abd. This slave here, not a good slave, not an extreme good slave. Innahu awwab. He be always turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala upon all conditions. Just like I be they worship Allah where everything be fine. Now the same way, in fact, he worship Allah more now when he was sick by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When his body become extremely rotten, he beg Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he say, Ya Allah, spare me heart and spare me tongue. The reason why I want to spare them two organs there for me, I want to spare me heart because I get for remember you often and often. And I want to spare me tongue because I get for glorify you, Ya Allah. Ya Allah, spare them organs there for me. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be grant them this gift, it be the glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Ibn Abu Waka at all, il don't one side, it still be the glorify Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. A narration say he sick up to 7 years. Some say more than 7 years. By the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He not ever turn away from Allah. He not ever say this not for nothing. He not ever say, la go check kuda den de behind this me sickness here. Rather is surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Even though he be the try in a halal way forget cure. But he believes say when it come to cure, it belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Wa iza maridtu fa huwa yashfin. When you sick or are sick, said by Ibrahim alayhi salatu salam, he said na Allah na in the man. So Ayyub alayhi salatu salam, he conscious say na Allah na in the man. So he surrender to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After a long time he struggle and his wife be there with him. All the friends them go away from her. Subhanallah. The sick become so intense and immense, so huge that even in padi them, those who are closer to him before, they run away from her. Subhanallah. They run away from her completely. Then the friend say, then can yaram, then go contact the disease. The only person be left with him, according to narration, na a wife known as Rahmah. By the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she was close to him and he be the help him, bi-iznillahi ta'ala. Then continue for struggle so much that this woman, a narration say, at a particular point, even when you go walk and let them survive, they not be the gear and walk at all. Then the friend say, if he enter inside the home, the sick way don't contact from your husband, the people of the house then go contact the sickness here. So not be the employer at all. This becomes so difficult that one day this woman cut in here, subhanallah, in long year, and he sell them just for let them survive. He and your husband by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah grant we good companions in the moment of difficulty. Subhanallah. Wallahi, there is nothing more greater in terms of barakah as to have beloved people around you when you're there in a state of struggling. Because oftentimes when things become rough and tough, the fake ones, they will go away. The fake ones, they will go away. Subhanallah. So everyone go away beside his wife, bi-iznillahi ta'ala. Because in a wife, he add life to his husband. By the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, she was there. Come rain, come sun, in the thick and thin. She was there for supporting husband. By the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. May Allah grant with them wife then day. Bi-iznillahi ta'ala. So after a while, Ayyub alayhi salam make a dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Almighty Allah record this in the Quran. He said, wa Ayyuba iznada rabba. Ayyub alayhi salam, he called out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He called Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, Anni masanni yadur wa anta arhamur rahimin. In Surah al-Anbiya, Surah the Prophet, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala record this. Ayyub alayhi salam say, Ya Allah, difficulty don't touch me. And you not the most merciful. Your mercy, it go beyond any other thing. Subhanallah. When he called out to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fastajabna lahu. Allah answer in dua. Allah answered the dua, he answered in supplication. And Almighty Allah tell him, he said, oh you Ayyub, urukud birijlik. Just ensure that you grind your foot na ground. Subhanallah. Usa you no need for grab. Just try for shake your foot small. Usa and Ayyub alayhi salam shake your foot small. Beneath the foot, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make water come out. The water gush forth by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Almighty Allah say, Haza mughtasilun baridun wa sharab. You see this water? Now cold water. Take and let you drink. And Ayyub alayhi salam, he drank from the water where gush beneath the foot. Bi-iznillahi ta'ala. And when he drink the water, all the sickness will be there inside, it well by the will of Allah. Then Allah tell him, wash with this water. And then he wash with the water. And all the sickness out disappear completely by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. After where Allah don't mean him, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless him more. Almighty Allah say, wa ataynahu. Almighty Allah bless him so much. Not only giving him the wealth to beget, but Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala say, we grant him more than what you began before. Allah multiply for us so much that Allah rain him with the rain of gold. Subhanallah. Allah make rain of gold candle upon Ayyub alayhi salam. So the rain of gold candle upon him, it be the pick the gold and be the gather them. It became healthy and wealthy in less than seconds by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah grant everything. He grant him family far more higher than the family way be lost. He grant them picking them far more greater than the picking the way be lost by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This was the mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah said this is a reminder for those who are closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When we learn them lessons there, if Allah be test in your prophets, in your choosing slave them, he be test them. What about me? What about you? Subhanallah. What about me? What about you? Today, some of you who ate the earth for 3 days consistently, would they say this not for nothing? I need to go check as to why me ate the earth 3 days. Subhanallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive who mistakes them. Then just say promotion, they come out, and then me ate begin earth. This not for nothing. La go to that pale, go protect me. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant me guidance. Ayyub alayhi salam be a patient, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be bless him with much more than what he be lost. This is not a lesson for we all, my beloved brothers and sisters. When Allah tests we and we be a patient, inshallah, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant you something far more better. Bi-iznillahi ta'ala. A clear example we go see. There are people who don't sick for a while. Maybe the first week or the first few days them, you go see many visitors that they can't visit this sick mania. For those who are doctors and nurses, there are times you get difficulty for drive people them away. Say, look, now go out for slow, we treat this patient here. It beget fans them, subhanallah, where they come for fan them a lot, with them fans where they bring. Then they come around them for the first days, maybe a week, maybe weeks, maybe a month, maybe months. After a while, you go find out say the number they reduce, subhanallah. They will start calling for check. Oh man, how is it? I just call for check. At a particular point, if they call 3 times, at a particular point, they begin reduce to 2. Then you go to 1. There are times they forget the whole week, they call him brother again. That's what's happening. Subhanallah. There are patients them in their words where they don't abandon completely. Even their family members are not coming. Even their family members are not coming. At a particular point, some of them will beg Allah, say, Ya Allah, take this man in life now. We don't tire for come. We don't tire for come. Subhanallah. The Prophet alayhi salatu salam say, Never ever wish for die. Never ever pray for someone even for die. No matter in state way they. No matter in state way they. In terms of difficulty. Never ever pray directly say, Ya Allah, take this man in life or take this woman in life. Rather the Prophet alayhi salatu salam say, if it has reached on the breaking point, the dua for make for say, Ya Allah, grant me life if a life good for me. Ya Allah, take me away if going away is good for me. So even at that point, you still give option by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Some of us have this kind of dua. When your papa sick or your mama sick, you don't spend a lot. You go say, Ya Allah, I don't need spend now. Allah, take this pale, go so that I go rest. Why you want to take the pa? Now because you don't have for spend. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive or mistakes them. That pa not be tough for feed you yesterday. If he look after you, he sell you the struggle for look after you, subhanallah. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala grant you steadfastness.